What is up, everyone? Today we're going to talk about 5 open chords that I think you need to know on your guitar journey. Open chords have such an amazing sound on guitar because they use some of the best features of the guitar. The fact that it's a fretted stringed instrument lets you use the open strings to create really wide open chords that you couldn't make otherwise. So 5 open chords that you need to know. Let's get started. Okay, chord number 1. Chord number 1 is technically an F major 7 sus2 second inversion. But honestly, without being super technical, it's just a super pretty way of playing an F chord or an F major 7 chord. Now the way that we play is ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, the pinky finger under it on the 3rd fret of the D string, open on the G string, 1st finger on the 1st fret of the B string, open high E string. It sounds like this. And it's just very, very pretty and a little bit melancholy, but also hopeful as a chord, at least in my mind. So like I said, we pretty much use it as an F chord. So a great chord progression would be to use this open F chord to an A minor to a G. I think that would be a great use for it. It sounds something like this. So that's chord number 1. Chord number 2 is this. Now this is pretty much a D chord with an add 4, meaning you have this interval. Now while that interval, which is a minor second interval, while it sounds kind of crunchy, you hear the dissonance between the two, almost that fluttering effect between the two. In the context, I think it adds an emotional quality to the D chord that it didn't have before. If you compare this chord, which is very innocent and bright, to this chord, which has some uncertainty in it and some sadness in it. You know, often I prefer to play this one because I think it has a more sophisticated harmonic makeup. So we play this chord by taking our regular C shape and we just slide it up too. Sounds something like this. Chord number 3 is going to be, well, kind of a set of 2. That is an A chord and a B chord, both major. Basically what they are is we're taking our bar chord shape here, which looks very similar to an E shape. So we have 1st finger on 5, ring finger on 7, pinky under it on 7, middle finger on the 6th fret of the G string, and the bottom strings are open. Now what you want to do to make sure that the bottom 2 strings remain open is you want to make sure to take your thumb low enough that you can create larger space between your knuckles and the fret of your left hand. Just make sure that that chord remains open. And then for the B, you just slide it up 2 frets. I wanted to take a quick break from the lesson to say, first of all, thank you so much for watching. And second of all, if you feel like you want to advance your guitar playing, but you're not sure how, I've just begun a Patreon. And on that Patreon, you can find exclusive lessons, tabs, and other materials that I think you will find really useful on your musical journey. So just click the link below that says Patreon, and I'll see you there. For the 4th chord, I think I'm going to turn it into progression with the last chord that we just learned. So this chord is a 1st inversion E major chord, and I'll just show you what it looks like. We put our ring finger on the 4th fret of the low E string, 2 strings under it. On the 2nd fret of the D string, we put our index finger. And then our pinky goes on the 4th fret as well on the G string, and then the bottom 2 strings are open. Something that's very important in this chord is that the ring finger here needs to actually go at an angle. And this is so that it mutes the A string here. Just because we just don't want to hear the A string, we want it to be muted like this. The chord sounds like this. So for example, if we have an E chord and we want a lot of movement, we can use this first inversion E chord, this open first inversion E chord, to create a lot of movement. Now using the last chord that we learned, the set of 2, we can use it like this. I think it's so useful because often when we're using these open chords, we can't afford as much movement because we're not employing very sophisticated voicings that have a lot of notes in them. So you want to maintain this feeling of openness and of spaciousness, but you also want to give it movement. This is a great way to do that. Chord number 5. It's going to be pretty simple, actually. We take, what is conventionally called a power chord, which is also the interval of a fifth. We're going to place it on the D and the G strings on the 11th fret and 13th fret. So index finger on the 11th fret of the D string, ring finger on the 13th fret, and then we're going to play open from the A string down. This is basically an A major 7 chord, or an A major 9 chord. I think it's very useful because you can move this power chord shape around to create a lot of very pretty voicings, but maintain that feeling of openness. And that is chord number 5, and that pretty much wraps up the 5 chords that I think are great to know on your guitar journey. Well, I hope you found today's lesson informative and useful, and hopefully you learned some things that you didn't know before. As always, if you did, please give a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.